listening to Ring Chronicles with Lance Vaughn and Glenn Ritchie.
All right, we're back, man. We've had an exciting week.
Very exciting.
Very, very exciting. We've had everything.
Everything. Enough Tony Khan drama to last a lifetime.
That's right. I think we're going to go over a little bit of that today.
A lot.
Yeah, we can't help it.
I've already got my phone out ready.
Oh, man. All right, so before we get started, are there any errors and omissions in the last episode or two?
I didn't listen to the whole podcast because I didn't have time from when we aired it.
Yeah.
Although I think we could have talked more about King Booker.
Probably.
First of all, I actually did some research on that. I was like, was he called King Booker or King Booker?
Right.
And apparently he used both names for himself.
Yeah.
And apparently in British speaking, ERs are pronounced like an A. So maybe that's what he was trying to do. Like,
okay.
Like water is water or whatever.
Right.
You know? So this guy had a daggum chariot with like red coats.
Yeah.
Leading him to the ring. Okay.
Yep.
He had a ring that he would tell the people to kiss or to kiss his feet.
Yeah.
So I talked about how great it was, but when I watched some old clips, I forgot how great it really was.
Yep.
And the thing I saw that made me really think about it is that he did the king gimmick so well that he pretty much killed it for everybody else.
Like nobody can do a king gimmick again?
Not like he did. There's been King Nakamura. There's been King Xavier Woods.
Mm-hmm.
But it was basically like Shinsuke Nakamura with the crown or Xavier Woods with a crown.
Right.
There's been Queen Zelina, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the wrestler with a crown.
Right.
Nobody took it to the level that Booker T did with the whole, just the whole show that he put on with this how far he took it. So I don't think there's anything that was I can think of right now. There might have been something later in the show that I'll find out about later, but nothing else I can think of about the last episode.
Yeah, I can't either. But this week, I don't know. I guess Tony Khan lost his mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Normally, I'm pretty sympathetic towards somebody that has, like, mental health concerns.
Right.
But Tony Khan is... Well, he's losing his mind on X, and he's making all these attacks against people that had nothing to do with this. First of all, he makes a tweet where about Triple H and Shawn Michaels, basically called him a bald asshole.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're having a mental breakdown, you need to get some help. Go get some help. Don't get on X and, just start name calling. Mm-hmm. That's not justified. I mean, he's a billionaire. If he needed help, he could get it.
Yeah.
Yep. So this guy, he makes all kinds of wild allegations. So Tony Khan, he brings in The Undertaker and John Cena and blasts them.
Yeah.
For what happened on Tuesday. And so just to kind of clarify what happened on Tuesday, AEW got squashed. Mm-hmm. They had some of the worst ratings in their entire history on Dynamite.
Speaking of that is the worst rated show since the Dynamite that we went to in 2021.
Yeah.
We were at that episode.
That was on a Saturday.
Yeah, well, the main problem with that one is that it was at the same time as the Jericho Cruise. So, like, half the talent was on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. We just happened to be at the last show that had that low.
That is interesting. That we were part of history,
right?
We were part of history, and I remember it not being that spectacularly good of a show. You know, they had Dustin Rhodes versus Bryan Danielson, and that was about it as far as good matches on that show.
Yeah, there was just a lot of people missing. There, a lot of people just weren't there.
So they had one of the lowest ratings of all time, or the lowest rating they've had in years.
Yeah, 2 years now.
NXT had one of the highest ratings they've ever had since going on to USA. They were squashed, okay? And I think what happened was, if you read or if you listen to one of our earlier podcasts, okay, listen to this theory. You're only going to have an old school wrestling guy come up with this theory. I think the WWE worked Tony Khan, okay?
Okay.
Remember when I talked about how they would have a champion and they would have the champion lose against the guy to make himself look weak, and then they would have the fans pay to fight the champion, and then the champion would just beat their ass?
Right.
I think that's what happened here.
Okay.
The WWE allowed Tony Khan to win for X number of weeks on the Wednesday Night Wars, making him think that he could actually beat the WWE. So Tony Khan, with his best talent, people like Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Jericho, Moxley, was able to beat their developmental show with people fresh out of the Performance Center, and that got to Tony's head. So that when Triple H brought out the Golden Shovel and put on like this great event, suddenly Tony Khan got his feelings hurt, okay? And one of the things that he posted, and this is from X, this week, 2 active decades-long rating streaks from 2 great legends were ended with all due respect, until this week's head-to-head AEW on TBS versus WWE on USA, neither John Cena nor Undertaker had ever been on a WWE show with under 1 million total viewers and under 400K in the demo. Okay, that's just petty. That is just so petty, all right? And it's like that meme I sent you. He's doing Steiner math. He doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. It doesn't make any sense. I got 144 2/3% chance of winning, even though I lost. Had one of the worst shows in history, ratings wise. But the Undertaker and John Cena had low ratings compared to, being on Raw or SmackDown like they normally would. Okay, you want to talk about ending rating streak? Pretty much any wrestler that went from the WWE to AEW ended their rating streak instantly. Edge ended his rating streak instantly.
Yeah.
Showing up on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson ended his rating streak instantly. Moxley, Jericho, everybody.
Yep.
Everybody, their rating streak ended as soon as they showed up on AEW. So
that's very true.
He has no right to talk about winning streaks.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is another tweet from Khan. This weekend marks 1 year since Mayo Clinic saved my mom's life, which is, I'm glad that they were able to do that. That's good. I know that's a tough thing to go for. I feel for him on that. But then he adds, during her ordeal, many AEW talent came to me alleging WWE tampering, inducing them to break their contracts. I'll never forget these phone calls at her side in the hospital. It's when business became personal for me. So why in the hell is he answering the phone about business when he's next to his dying mother? That doesn't make any sense to me. And where is his evidence for this? Who are these wrestlers?
Right, that's what I want to know is who came to him. Just tell us who came to him.
Tell us who came to you.
Right.
Okay. So then he tweeted this, and this is where he really started going off the rails, okay? He said, not that I should be surprised, but the same WWE avatar accounts that spam me every day, no matter what I say or what it's about, now turning their wrath to mom recovering from a near-death experience. is why I straight hate these people to the bottom of my heart with all my soul. Okay, so I was just like, what in the hell is this man talking about? And then one of our friends sent me something that made me understand possibly what it was that he was talking about. Okay, in April the 8th of 2022, Tony Khan posted an independent study, which we haven't seen this study, has confirmed that much of the staunch anti-AEW online community aren't even real individuals. It's a staff running thousands of accounts, plus an army of bots to signal boost them. Look closely. These aren't real people. Who'd pay for such a wildly expensive thing? I don't know, Tony. Maybe aliens did it. Okay? But that is just insane.
Yeah.
And to put that on X,
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes you question the guy. Because, I mean, I've had some crazy wild thoughts before, but I didn't put them on the internet.
Well, if you're going to say stuff like that, you need to, show us the study you're talking about. You need to tell us who the wrestlers are that came to you while your mother was dying. It's just wild accusations at this point.
Yeah, it's wild accusations.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody flew a drone with a WWE logo near Tony Khan's mansion, he would be on Twitter talking about they're using psyops. If somebody parked in a van by his mansion with a WWE logo on the van, he would say they got like some kind of like sound device inside the van that's like radiating sound to like cause death or something. I don't know.
This is just straight paranoia.
I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean,
am I wrong?
No. But the thing is who can stop him from doing this? Who's he going to listen to? Who can go to Tony Khan and say, "Hey, man, calm down a little bit, put the phone down."
I would hope that he would listen to people like Bryan Danielson, and Jim Ross. I mean, Bryan Danielson's always had his back.
Yeah.
Jim Ross,
Jericho.
Yeah. Please, Tony, listen to somebody, man. Like, I feel bad for the AEW fans because this makes everything look bad. And all that they can say is, well, I just like to watch the product. I mean, that's all they can say. They can't even defend this guy anymore.
Well, I mean, they don't have to. I mean, you watch whatever you want to watch.
You watch whatever you want to watch, yeah. Watch all the bad wrestling you want. You know what? Also, what is it? Shaves my ass or whatever you say or whatever.
Chaps your ass.
Yeah, chaps my ass. Yeah. The people that are like the international wrestling community. What the hell is that?
I don't know what that is.
You ever seen IWC online?
No.
I'm not part of your international wrestling community. Quit using that term. Use it for yourself, but I'm not part of your treehouse club.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And first of all, the audiences, aside from a few super marks for like Japanese wrestling, is all in Japan. It's not international. If you go to like some show in Mexico for some lucha libre, you're not going to see like random international people coming there to watch that match.
Right.
It's your audience is there in Mexico. So I don't get this whole entire international wrestling community. You got a handful of people that will watch matches overseas. Okay. That's it. I mean, this is an extremely small minority. I guess maybe they consider the WWE, since it has an international audience, that's the international wrestling community. I hate to tell you this, but that's the WWE universe, which I also hate. That is the stupidest thing. They even made a belt.
Yeah.
You're the champion of the universe. I mean, you're gonna have matches on Pluto. You're gonna have matches in Alpha Centauri. Okay, you're gonna go to International Space Station and body slam somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, Ric Flair was a world champion. He went around the world and defended the title. What are you going to do as a Universal Champion? You're going to take off in a space rocket and fight and blade yourself while you're in space, and your blood's just going to like. And the blood's just going to floating in that air.
Oh my
because you bladed yourself in space and there's zero gravity.
Oh my God.
I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, this is stupid. So John Moxley would do it.
Damn right.
Just put him on a spaceship and he'll like find a way to bleed himself inside of his spacesuit.
Yes, he will. Yes, he
He'll
will.
have like blood all over the helmet and the glass, the visor. Be just covered in blood while he's fixing a satellite.
While he's fixing
He can't even see. So
somebody stop the damn spacewalk.
Gosh. And when he re-enters the space pod, there'd be like a bed of barbed wire.
Yeah.
And what are those plates? Gusset plates or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So,
What were we talking about?
Tony Khan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know, I hope that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if he's like having a mental breakdown, I feel bad for him. But that does not give you an excuse to like insult the Undertaker. It doesn't give you an excuse to insult John Cena. They had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
I can understand being upset with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but even they didn't do anything personal. They didn't send bots to harass your mom. Okay. Like,
Right.
Like, come on, dude. Like this, you're taking this way too personal, and I just don't get it. You know what also irritates me is the fans are like, "Oh, I'm not a toxic wrestling fan. I just like to watch wrestling."
Mm-hmm.
Take a side. I mean, take a side on the side of good wrestling if you don't do anything else. I'm not saying take a side versus AEW versus WWE.
Yeah.
But take a side on behalf of good wrestling.
Yeah.
Stand up for good wrestling, okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, this international wrestling community thing, I don't know. I think it's just because like the indie scene is more influenced by different styles, and you're going to see more lucha libre and stuff like that. That's influenced the indie wrestling or whatever. But I think that's part of the problem is there are too many styles. I mean, we need to like narrow things down and like have some rules and actually have like define what wrestling is. You can still have your style. Look at what Asuka has done in the WWE. She has that strong style that she's brought over, but she still has acclimated herself to the WWE. Shinsuke Nakamura has done the same thing, although unfortunately it hasn't really worked out as well for him. But you know, you can acclimate to the style of where you're at while also bringing your own flavor to that. Mm-hmm. But the indie style just it chaps my ass, okay? Because you got, I mean, the indie matches just 12 Canadian destroyers that everybody kicks out of. It used to be a finisher, and now like it's just a move. It's like an arm drag.
Yep.
I mean, it's just I don't know. I can't tolerate it. So we were going to talk about wars though.
Yeah.
Within wrestling organizations, and the Monday Night Wars, of course, are the most famous example of this. And we were also going to talk about people switching and being a shock. like for example, or signing on someone that's a surprise. So, you know, in wrestling, anything can happen. We may see CM Punk in the WWE. We don't know yet. Anything can happen. Bret Hart came back to the WWE. The Ultimate Warrior came back to the WWE. So I really hope, and I'm going to get a little bit serious here. I really hope that AEW succeeds because we need somebody to compete with the WWE.
Right.
Desperately.
I think that's one thing that bothers me about the diehard dub fans is that they want it to go away. And the feeling that I get from these people is that they think that there should only be one giant company in the world. One giant wrestling company. You only have one offering, like they want that.
That's stupid.
Right. You want competition. Why wouldn't you, as a consumer, as we are, don't you want competition?
Yeah, even if I don't want to buy your like nasty breaks in my hand toilet paper product, you know, I'm glad that's on the market. So that maybe the Scott brand that I choose to use will continue to make theirs better. Right.
Now, you know, WWE, Endeavor, whatever, they're going to try to be the only product because that's what you do. I mean, like if you're in that company, you're going to try to do everything to be the top and, if possible, only company. And that's what they did when they bought WCW. They were the only show in town until AEW came along, and I don't count TNA.
Yeah. Nobody counts TNA.
But it's these, and I think I mentioned this before, where these people seem to live vicariously through Vince and Triple H and Shawn Michaels, like they're their buddies or something, and they're going, "Yeah, we're winning, we're number one." I'm like, you're not a part of the company. You are a consumer.
Yeah, like when the WWE starts like giving you their peacocks for free, then you can say we're winning.
Right.
You know?
yeah. All this wee shit.
When they send you a new title belt in the mail every month, you can say we're winning.
You see similar things in sports. Like I am a fan of certain sports teams, but I have never said we won or we lost or we did this or we did that. I am not a part of the team. I am not a part of the organization.
So there was a study on just what you said.
Oh, nice.
And this is what they found.
Okay.
It was a sociological study.
Uh-huh.
And they found that when people's teams won, they were more likely to use the pronouns of we.
Right.
And when their team lost, they were more likely to use the pronoun they.
They. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, the psychological reason why, is when their team won, they wanted to bask in the glory.
Right.
To borrow a phrase from Keith Lee, they wanted to bask in the glory of this victory. But when their team lost, they wanted to separate themselves from that loss so it stings less.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't lose. You lost.
So that's the part about wrestling. Now, am I one of those like kumbaya, let's all just like wrestling and not be toxic about it? No, I'll be toxic as I want to be. Get over it.
Right.
Okay. Right. I have my preferences. I like good wrestling. I dislike bad wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be my preference.
Yeah.
However, I don't have an automatic preference for WWE, and I don't have an automatic preference against AEW. There are good things that AEW does, and there are bad things that the WWE does. Okay?
Amen, my brother.
So the thing about that is there's this rampant tribalism in wrestling, in this international wrestling community, okay?
Yep.
There's rampant tribalism in this, and that's why you see a lot of stuff that's going on. So right now, a lot of AEW fans are not wanting to own up to having Tony Khan, but guess what? He's the owner of your company.
The owner of the company. Right.
Well,
there you go. Your company. It's not my company. It's his. Because he's losing. I'm not going to associate myself with the loser.
He's lost a lot lately. Lost Tuesday night. Lost his mind. I mean, man, there's even people like all over the internet saying he's on coke.
He can afford it.
He could. I'm not going to allege that. Unlike Tony Khan, I'm not going to make allegations.
Right, there you go.
I have no evidence to support.
Be the better man.
Right. So Tony Khan will make some allegations against you, though. He probably thinks that I'm a paid bot.
Yeah. I assure you, Ring Chronicles is not a paid bot.
Yeah. That this is somehow some AI-generated anti-AEW propaganda that the WWE has produced or whatever. I'm not even a real person.
Yep.
I'm just an AI chat thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw a comment that says, if you write anything bad about Tony Khan on the internet, he will see it.
Well, I mean, if he's just staring at his phone all day, he probably will.
So, let's talk about the WWE, though. Mm-hmm. Okay, with the ratings war. Let's look back to what they did well with the last war and... Well, let's start off with WCW first, okay?
Okay.
So, WCW did a lot of good things with their product when they started competing well with the WWE. Now prior to Hogan, the WCW product, especially the main event scene, was really, really bad. Hogan was on top. He only wanted to work with his guys. You know, the whole Dungeon of Doom thing, It was terrible. Every week they broke out with another clown, and they had to Earthquake. He had a tattoo of a lion on his arm, and they had a gimmick of him being, I think he was called Shark Attack or something like that.
What?
And he did over his tattoo of a lion or a tiger with the shark. This guy permanently changed his body for a Shark Attack gimmick. So, yeah, I'm looking at it here. I looked up John Tenta. What was it? Shark? The Shark. The Shark.
The Shark.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
He made permanent changes to his body for a short-lived gimmick called the Shark. And this was what WCW was doing.
Yeah.
With their triple cage thing, just all this terribleness. Okay. And I'm going to get into this too. I have a theory that one of the most important things that will lead to wrestling either being in a good period or a bad period is predictability.
Yeah.
Okay. So now don't get me wrong. I'm all about formulas that work in wrestling. I've talked about that in tag team matches.
Yeah.
You know, you stick to a basic heel versus face formula. Wrestling matches in general, heel versus face. You stick to things that work, okay? But the one thing you don't want to do is become utterly predictable, okay? And WCW along this time was utterly predictable. But there were some things that were happening in the mid-card that were starting to improve, and they were starting to bring in some cruiserweights and things like that. So that's one of the things that WCW did well. They developed their whole card into something that was entertaining. So even the mid-card was entertaining. The cruiserweights were entertaining. One of the things they did bad is constantly hype up the main event or constantly hype up the pay-per-view during these great mid-card matches, during these great cruiserweight matches, okay? So that was one of the things they did terrible. Things in WCW became reality-based with the NWO. You know, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall went by their real names. It was a lot more edgier. It was more real. They got rid of these stupid well, they mostly got rid of these stupid shark type gimmicks, Dungeon and Doom crap like that.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you did have some characters that were a little bit far out there, that, you know, like Disco Inferno and things like that. But it just got better overall. Okay, so Vince McMahon obviously was watching WCW around this time, because he took everything that they were doing well and he ripped it off. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Attitude Era was a ripoff.
Okay,
The whole thing with Steve Austin and Vince McMahon was already being done in WCW with Eric Bischoff with the NWO.
okay, but who did it better?
Vince McMahon did.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying that it was a bad rip-off. I'm just saying that he ripped it off. He saw everything that WCW was doing well, and he ripped it off. And I think that's something that AEW could learn from. Look at what the competition is doing well, take out the parts you don't like, and rip off the parts that are good, okay? And then you won't have to worry about half your stadium being empty.
Right.
So the WWE ripped off WCW with this Austin McMahon gimmick, okay? They brought in a lot of good talent, young talent, developed them well, booked them well, made these guys into champions. It became an edgier product, something a lot more friendly towards that key demo. And on top of this, they made it where even the mid-carders were entertaining to watch. I mean, think of some of the great mid-carders in the Attitude Era. They were more entertaining than a lot of your big names today. I mean,
Yep.
if I had to choose between watching a match between the Hardley Boys and anybody else versus watching a match between Val Venus and the Godfather,
Yeah.
I'd probably choose Val Venus and the Godfather.
Yep. Absolutely.
Even though those guys were mid-carders.
Yep.
Okay? The mid-card was better than a lot of the wrestling you see today.
Very solid mid card.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was several guys that were really good.
Yeah, yeah. And so you had a well-developed mid-card. The mid-card had their own storylines that were good. You had great writing, great creative, and they weren't afraid to spend some money to shock, where they'd be filling out a Corvette with cement or driving a beer truck to the ring. They spent money on stuff. Now the WWE goes out there and talks for 45 minutes, and nothing happens.
Right.
Nothing gets broken. There's no cars riding into the ring for no apparent reason. There's no motorcycles running over shit. There's no monster truck, just ramming into an ambulance or something. I mean,
maybe it wouldn't be so bad if the talking was good.
Yeah,
if it wasn't scripted to hell and back.
That is a problem too.
I watched several clips from SmackDown last night, and I saw things in the same segment that were night and day.
Explain.
Do you want me to go into this?
Yes, explain.
Because I feel like it's going off topic a little bit, but if we're on this, then okay. So I watched the whole segment with Triple H and Mysterio and Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, which I was very excited about, by the way.
Yeah.
How much Nick Aldis have you seen?
I'm aware of him. I know of him.
Okay.
I haven't seen enough of him.
I want you to go back. It's probably still on YouTube because they were on YouTube at the time, but watch NWA in November and December of 2019 and just at least watch his segments. He was a fantastic heel. He had, I forget her name now, but he had a female valet and he wouldn't let her speak.
Oh my God.
I forget her name. She's been the NWA World Champion. I can't remember her damn name, but she's really good. But the whole thing, like she wouldn't speak. Like he would be in an interview, and she'd be sitting there next to him, and the interviewer would ask her a question, and she just wouldn't say anything.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I just want to bring up the greatness of Nick Aldis, and if anybody hasn't watched it, go back and watch some Nick Aldis. He is fantastic. And I don't know if it's good or bad that it sounds like he's not going to be in a wrestling role. He's going to be a GM role.
Yeah, he's a general manager.
So, but I don't know if he's hurt or if he's just tired of wrestling or what. But he's really good now. Is the dub going to let him be that Nick Aldis? Probably not.
Well, not as a GM, no.
Yeah.
Unless he were to turn heel as a GM.
Yeah.
We've known WWE to do that.
Yeah.
You know who I look back on that did a really good heel turn that at the time I didn't appreciate as much but when I look
Camilla
back on it now,
in NWA, her name was Camilla. Her name's Camilla. She's still there, but anyway, go ahead.
Michael Cole.
Okay.
He did a heel turn in the early 2010s.
Okay.
You need to watch it. It's like I didn't know
heel commentary.
Yes.
Okay.
You know who Michael Cole is, right?
Well, yeah, I know who Michael Cole is.
So Michael Cole is your bland ring announcer.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his thing.
Yeah.
Was that he was a bland play-by-play ring announcer. No frills, no Jim Ross. He's dead. He's dead. Stop the damn match.
Yeah.
None of that. You can see the bodies. I mean,
the unmitigated gall.
No, there was none of that with Michael Cole. He had no Southern accent, nothing like that. He was just your bland ring announcer and commentator. Mm-hmm. Well, when he turned heel, he was just the ultimate asshole. And he was doing this thing where he was like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but like he was basically representing like the power or whatever, the powers, and he would be on this podium and he would make proclamations and stuff, and it was just good stuff. But I don't know. It just made me think about that when you brought up Nick Aldis. And that they might make him into a heel GM, which we haven't had a good heel GM in wrestling in a while.
I think he could do it.
The last one that I remember that was really good was Vicky Guerrero.
Vicky Guerrero and William Regal.
Yeah,
William Regal was really, really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to SmackDown. In that segment, let's see, who else was in the ring? John Cena was in the ring.
John Cena and LA Knight.
Yeah, and it was Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. And, LA Knight came down. John Cena said that LA Knight's the one that deserves the title shot.
Yeah.
So anyway, when LA Knight gets in the ring, the one guy or two guys that felt like they didn't fit in that group, so several people in the ring, the people I felt like they didn't fit was Dom Mysterio and Roman Reigns. I feel like they are outmatched by all of those guys on the mic. All of them. Badly. Now, I might get a lot of hate for that, especially for Roman Reigns, and I understand Dom's getting bad heat, but this goes back to something that you said, maybe last episode or the one before, where you said, with all the scripted material, a lot of these guys are going out there and says stuff that doesn't sound natural coming from that person. And that's what it feels like with both Mysterio and Roman Reigns. I know Roman Reigns is the 1100-day champion or whatever, but it sounds like all his stuff is scripted because it just doesn't come out naturally like it does with LA Knight or Cena or Triple H or Nick Aldis or anybody else.
Well, in my opinion, Roman Reigns' mic work has gotten better since he turned heel, personally. I mean,
maybe it has.
I mean, I'm not saying he's The Rock or Steve Austin.
Right. And by the way, I think him being him having cousin Rock is a big reason why he got a chance anyway.
Yeah.
So
he's in that family.
Look, I haven't seen a lot of the Bloodline storyline, okay? But as a person that kind of just dropped in on this episode and started watching it with really not much of an idea of what's going on, LA Knight, look, if Roman Reigns has had the championship for 1,100 days, then LA Knight needs to have it for 2,000 days.
Well, and here's the thing that's sad. It looks like they're gearing up for a main event between Roman Reigns and LA Knight at Crown Jewel.
Okay.
That's looks like what they're gearing up for.
And I don't see the title changing hands on a small pay-per-view.
I don't. And not unless they really wanted to get the Saudis happy. I mean, you know, and this would be one of those times I really want the Saudis to be happy. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just don't see it happening either, and it's a shame. I would say it would. I feel like they're pushing this too fast.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen LA Knight hold a mid-card title.
Sure.
He's not held any belt aside from the $1 million belt, which is unsanctioned.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah.
In the WWE, so it wouldn't make sense for him to just suddenly become, you know, the ultimate galactic champion.
How long has it been since he's been allowed to be LA Knight again? Because you know, you told me about the model gimmick, and then Triple H told him he could go back to being LA Knight. How long's that been?
I don't remember exactly, but I know he was LA Knight in January of this year.
Okay, so maybe not quite a year yet.
Not quite a year, I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I would think that by now he could have held. I mean, the IC title is also guarded by Gunther. So
yeah, Gunther's held it longer than anybody ever, in history.
I don't know what else is there. The U.S. title,
United States title. He could have won that.
Who has the U.S. title? Right
Rey Mysterio.
Okay, now that would be a good. Mysterio putting him over and making him look good would be very helpful.
Now, the thing you said about Dominique Mysterio and his mic skills, I don't think Dominique needs to be good on the mic right now. He's got such heat, and it's good heat, that he can get out there and just open his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see what happened where Triple H was like, kind of doing some fourth wall commentary?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were piping in music.
Well, did you notice later he traded him microphones? Like, oh, that microphone doesn't seem to be working. Because the allegations they turned his microphone down.
But do you think Triple H was bullshitting?
Yes.
Okay.
they I don't know if they're piping in boos.
Right.
Possibly. But they're almost certainly lowering his mic during promos. Which, you know, to be honest with you, I'm honestly okay with that. But I think he's got such good heat that you don't need to do that. He's getting booed up. Anybody just like, because there's been like people that's been to the shows live that were like, yeah, he got booed like worse than anybody. You don't need to enhance the heat when the heat's already boiling hot.
Right.
You know, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to make him like the biggest, most hated person in wrestling, but they don't need to. He's already there.
Right. And the other thing about Tom, though, I know he's young, but he just looked like a child out there.
He does.
Next to all those other guys, he looks like a little kid.
But that's part of the heat. That's part of the heat. I mean, he's got like facial hair that ain't even fully grown. Right. But he's a hardened criminal. Right. He's been to prison. He's a felon. They changed him, Lance.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's a great gimmick. I mean, and this is coming from a guy that when Dominique Mysterio was a face, I hated Dominic. It wasn't good heat. It was go away heat.
Right.
I couldn't stand it. I said he should have went to developmental.
Yeah.
He's only here because of his dad.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Right.
And then he turned on his dad and joined with Rhea Ripley and joined the Judgment Day. And it just overnight became good. And like he found, I mean, just some wrestlers are not meant to be faces. And you know, you would assume that Dominic Mysterio was meant to be a face because his dad was a face for his whole career.
Right.
But that's not the case for Dominic, is that he's a natural heel.
Well, we're in different
Roman
times.
Reigns is a natural heel.
Yeah, I mean, when Rey Mysterio was coming up as a face, I mean, that was just a different time. I mean, first off, Rey Mysterio was doing shit that American wrestling had never seen before. You know? And now, I mean, we've all seen it. So Mysterio is just in a different world in wrestling right now.
Right. Well, he's a legend, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, so going back to my gripes about how they book wrestling now in WWE, I think at some point they no longer had to make wrestling unpredictable because there was no competition. They went back to the old way prior to the Monday Night Wars, where a lot of wrestling was. This was okay. This is the thing about old time wrestling I didn't like. Okay, if you weren't watching a pay-per-view. If you weren't watching a pay-per-view, chances are I could go back in time. Now, when I was a kid, I was into it. I believed it. I thought it was all real, so it wasn't predictable to me. But after watching wrestling for like almost 40 years, I can go watch a card from history that I don't remember, and if it's a pay-per-view, I can tell you who won just from memory. But but if it was just like a regular card, I could tell you what's going to happen easily by just before the match even starts. First of all, they were big on using jobbers back then, or enhancement talent, whatever you want to call it. This isn't we're not struggling to be PC with enhancement guys. So, they did the enhancement talent thing. And so you saw that a lot. And there's still a place for that in wrestling, okay? But not all the time, like what was happening in the old school wrestling. And then a lot of times you have a main event match where you have a face and a heel, and it'd be an actual good match. And 99% of the time, the heel gets disqualified or something like that. And that's how the match ends, and it sets things up for the pay-per-view, okay? So I remember when Monday Night Raw first started. Monday Night Raw was like the first show to break the mold on this.
Okay.
And it was kind of interesting because I was watching WCW before I started watching Monday Night Raw. I remember the first episode that I watched. And because I honestly somehow or another didn't know that it was on until it had been on for months at a time. So there was things that I missed. Like I never got to see Ric Flair on Raw, or I don't think I got to see Hulk Hogan. But the very first Raw that I watched was the main event. And another thing that was bizarre, back then on Raw, they would have the main event sometimes often first.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The main event was Razor Ramon versus the 1-2-3 Kid, who is now known as X-Pac or Sean Waltman, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. And it was a rematch. Apparently, the 1-2-3 Kid did an upset victory with like some kind of like moonsault type of move or something or another, and pinned Razor Ramon. And Razor Ramon was pissed about this, so Razor Ramon was offering, like, I don't remember how much it was. It was probably about $10,000. He was offering him $10,000 for a rematch, to come back to a rematch. So the 1-2-3 Kid comes out, they fight. At some point, the 1-2-3 Kid says, "You know what the hell with this?" He goes and grabs the money and runs away out of the arena with Razor Ramon chasing after him onto the street, and the camera following them out into the street. And then 1-2-3 Kid gets in his vehicle and takes off, and you just see Razor Ramon like just pissed on the side of the street at the old arena that had all the Raws at. It was all fancy and shit.
Yeah.
And I remember that was so memorable to me, of something I've never seen before, that I still remember it to this day. And instantly I was hooked on WWF Monday Night Raw.
Right.
And it stayed that way. Okay. WCW, Nitro. They started putting some stuff on there that was unpredictable. When the NWO came around, it became extremely unpredictable. You watched every night just to see what happens next. And even though it was the same formula, the NWO just beating everybody up, you tuned in to see who they're beating up this week. Okay? But then they made it not as predictable. And, had Sting and everything else. What is Sting going to do? There's this big story, okay? So the king of not making it predictable was the WWE with the Attitude Era, where you didn't know one day to the next what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
How would you have predicted Mae Young giving birth to a hen?
You don't.
How would you have predicted Steve Austin with a beer truck? How would you have predicted Kurt Angle with a milk truck? How would you have predicted any of that? Mm-hmm. No, you don't. The Undertaker putting crucifying Steve Austin.
Yeah.
On the Undertaker symbol.
So good.
Or Stephanie McMahon gets into the limousine as the Undertaker.
Yes.
Where to, Stephanie? or like
yes.
Triple H marrying Stephanie McMahon while she's like, drugged up.
Yeah.
And I've talked about that before, like, how in wrestling, you don't have to ask questions of like, how did they do that? Is that legal? In wrestling, you don't ask those questions because wrestling isn't real.
Right.
And in part, so at that point in time, letting go of wrestling's realness was a good thing because it allowed them to explore avenues that they never would have done. If they were still portraying this as a real product and Triple H drugged up Stephanie McMahon and married her, there would have been numerous calls to law enforcement. There would have been petitions, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And there already were like petitions from like mothers groups and stuff like that as it was. Yeah. It would have been even crazier if they portrayed it as real. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that we need to go back to the Attitude Era completely. I think we could still have a product that isn't super violent, mm-hmm. isn't profane, doesn't sexualize women the way that the Attitude Era did. Mm-hmm. I think we could still have a product that meets these goals, these corporate goals of having a more family-friendly product, and it's still being not just completely predictable. I mean, wrestling's always going to have some things that are predictable, but it shouldn't be always predictable. And the WWE's got to quit being on the mic for 45 minutes. Okay, if I watch a 3-hour episode of Raw and there's only an hour and a half of wrestling in that show, there's something wrong with it.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Unless the talking is so entertaining and mm-hmm. there's so much going on. Mm-hmm. Like when The Rock and Mankind did the This Is Your Life thing with The Rock. Mm-hmm. I mean, that segment took up 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. But it was well worth it. Mm-hmm. It was like one of the highest rated segments in wrestling history. It might have been the highest. I have to look that up. Yeah. But it was good. Mm-hmm. It was good. Yep. Yeah, two guys on the mic that could talk. And just be let loose, okay? So I'm going to talk about a little bit what AEW does well. Their product is exciting, mm-hmm. okay? They don't overload it with too much talking. There's a lot of ring action in the product. And they let guys that can talk, okay? And that's the things that Tony Khan should be focused on and not ancient aliens and WWE drones and psyops.
Ancient aliens. Yeah.
Tony Khan reminds me of that guy from Ancient Aliens with his hair all messed up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep, absolutely.
I just... for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Yeah.
So if instead it's aliens, it's WWE.
Right.
Whatever it was, it's the WWE. They did it. So, go ahead, Lance.
I was going to say, where were we?
Well, I was talking about how the product during the Monday Night Wars was different than it is now.
Yeah.
And why we should go back to some elements of that with wrestling.
Yeah.
I hate to admit this. But when I watch AEW, I don't do a good job predicting what's going to happen.
Okay.
Now, that could be because I'm not a regular watcher of it.
Okay. If
I sat down and watched it every week by week, but I noticed that whenever we did the betting of who would win on the pay-per-views, I think I won one night of that, and that was it.
Yeah.
And, like, usually I can tell you everything that's going to happen on a pay-per-view. I can tell you who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to interfere. Yeah. You know, I mean, I can even tell you what the commentators are going to say during the match.
Right.
But with AEW, I struggle with predicting what they're going to do and I think part of it is because I don't watch it week in, week out. But I also think that their booking is less predictable.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I think it's less predictable. So that's one of the things they're doing well.
I could see that because, I mean, this is just one example, but I don't think Bryan Danielson has won any belts yet.
Not that I can think of.
Like you would have thought he would have gotten the world title by now.
Yeah.
Nope. He hasn't won anything. He's just kind of been I don't know. I guess he's the leader of the Blackpool Combat Club right now. I guess that's kind of his thing right now. But, you know, he had his matches against, I think, Paige and Punk. But, yeah, he just seems to be putting people over, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's his role.
So, to basically sum up everything we've talked about, there are things in wrestling's past that we need to go back to and revisit.
Okay.
And there are things that we need to leave alone. And I think one of the key things is that predictability. And that was such a key component of the past Monday Night Wars. And the WWE product has grown stale without having competition. And I've noticed that since AEW has been around, we've actually seen more higher attendance and better ratings in the WWE. And I think it's because of a couple of things. I think them turning Roman Reigns heel was a good idea. And I think they've just had better programming since AEW is coming around. So the competition's worked. And I think AEW gets more criticism online than probably any other company because people want there to be a second competitor, and they don't want it to just die out like Impact or you know, TNA or whatever. I know Impact's still around technically, but I mean, it's nowhere near in the form of what it used to be.
I think the main thing is AEW's just got to be smarter. You can't do what WCW did, especially with money. Money's really what killed them because you've heard it a million times. They had more money going out than what was coming in. Yeah. And they were paying these guys tons of money and it was all guaranteed. And so if they can stay away from things like that, they'll have a chance to be a good, at least second company.
And here's my message to Tony Khan if he's listening.
Okay, go for it.
Tony, I know it's hard going against the WWE and their mega powerful conglomerate corporate infrastructure that they have that's designed just to destroy you. But please let go of the phone. Get off the internet. Get off Twitter.
What the fuck? That was Google. Just ignore her.
Oh.
Anyway.
Freak me the fuck out.
It's Tony Khan. He's listening.
Tony Khan. Let me get back to Tony Khan. But Tony, just put down the phone, man, and get off of X and just go on a vacation and just don't get back on Twitter, okay? Mm-hmm. Let somebody manage your Twitter account and promote your product. You just sit back and collect the money and just chime in whenever it's nice to do so, like charity functions and you know, special events and you know, just be the good positive face of AEW like you once were before you went nuts. Okay.
I mean, you would think with all the talent they have there, he's surrounded by good wrestling minds. But and this is what I've heard a million times. He needs to let these people help him out.
Yeah.
Let these guys help you. I mean, you got to think Bryan Danielson could do a lot of good. I don't know. And other guys, Edge, Christian, all those guys could do a good job helping out. But
somebody needs to be given the executive power to run that ship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to have to fight some people to let go of that power.
Yeah.
But do I think AEW is going to compete with WWE in the near future? No.
In the near future, no.
Could it do it in the long run? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they've definitely got the deep pockets to do it. So money's not really a concern. It's just they got to be smart. They got to, like I said, you got to let he's got to let these people help him. He's got to or bring in somebody to do it. Whatever.
All right.
So we got everything off our chest this week?
I think so.
All right.
Do the right thing, Tony.
Do the right. All right. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.